The term Black consciousness stems from American educator W.E.B. Du Bois' evaluation of the double consciousness of American blacks being taught what they feel inside to be lies about the weakness and cowardice of their race, the need for the black person to think of themselves as human beings, dignified and proud of their blackness in spite of oppression of colonization. Black consciousness in South Africa was subject to other influences as well. The anti-colonialist writings of African leaders such as Julius Nyerere, Kenneth Kaunda, Kwame Nkrumah, Fidel Castro, Paul Freire, and post-colonial thinkers such as Frantz Fanon, Leopold Séjourné. The formation of the Black consciousness movement in South Africa had many factors. The Black consciousness movement was a grassroots anti-apartheid activist movement that emerged in the 1960s out of the social reactions created by the jailing and banning of the African National Congress and other black organizations, members, and leaders. The aftermath of the Sharpeville massacre, where 69 people were killed. Black people were placed on the wrong side of apartheid, had a problem with their treatment. They resisted many times in the past and had a back and forth with the law. For every law made oppressing blacks resisted it. And another law was made for more oppression and blacks resisted again. This was coined the Devil Movement. Black university students who were active in NUSATS, the National Union of South African Students, which was a multiracial union, felt their needs were unique and were not receiving attention. Although it was multiracial, it was dominated by white students, and black students had no voice, so they started their own group. Steve Biko broke from NUSAS and formed a group of non-white students named SASO, the South African Students Organization. Its goal was to crystallize the needs and aspirations of the non-white students and seek to make known their grievances. SASO realized that not unless the non-white students decide to lift themselves from the doldrums will they ever hope to get out of them. Universities over South Africa started to develop black-centric organizations. Student organizations were the leaders of the BCM. What they did in creating a black-centric students' union was create black identity. They labeled anyone non-white as black. It was done to create unity, not Exosu, Bantu, Asiatic, but black, all black people, reinforcing the notions of black dignity, solidarity, and togetherness, all ideas that founded the BCM. Steve Biko realized early that the black consciousness can be described as an awareness among blacks that their human identity hinges on the fact that they are black. Blacks are proud of their skin color and aware of the fact that they have their own black history and culture, differing from that of whites. They no longer accept being judged according to white values and norms. This means they must psychologically liberate themselves from the slave mentality created by institutionalized racism and white liberalism. In essence, black consciousness is an attitude towards life and represented a social movement for political consciousness. The black consciousness movement made South Africans aware of their place in a colonized land. It made people aware of internalized colonization and the psychology of liberation. Also, it incorporated how negative attitudes about subordinate non-whites changed into an introverted, positive discourse of resistance. The shifts in ideology was major for blacks. It changed their belief in themselves, therefore changing their attitude, therefore changing their behavior, and then it changed their actions. As Steve Biko said, the most important weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. The idea of black man, you are on your own, helped black South Africans realize that the government doesn't care about them. Mzulu Mahum Masomi described the effect on him by saying, the minute you accept, acknowledge, and understand that as a black person, nobody cares about your struggle, the injustices you suffer, your economic exclusion, your history being edited and rewritten by whites, systematic and structural oppression and racism has lasted 5 centuries on all walks of the earth. You know why? Because nobody gives a hoot about your problems. In fact, they are the source of your problems. Black man, you are on your own. The June 16, 1976 Soweto uprisings. 176 people murdered by police bullets. The protest began when it was decreed that black school students be forced to learn Afrikaans. This was another encroachment against the awakened black population, which generally spoke indigenous language like Zulu and Exosu at home and saw English as offering more prospects for economic self-sufficiency and mobility. And the notion that Afrikaans was to define the national identity stood directly against the BCM principle of the development of a unique black identity, therefore forcing people into the streets in a nonviolent protest, which ultimately 176 people died. The aftermath of the uprising established a leading role of the ANC in anti-apartheid struggle. It was the best body able to channel and organize students seeking the end of apartheid. So although the BCM ideas have been important in creating the climate that gave the students the confidence to strike out, it was the ANC which came to dominate the discourse of the anti-apartheid movement amongst blacks. The influence of the BCM can be seen as comprising two layers or parts. One part included influence on South African liberation as a whole, the other influence in achieving the specific goals it set out to realize. The two parts were also interrelated and overlapping, the role of BCM being complementary to that of the ANC and other liberation movements. Before and after the Soweto uprisings, the government moved to ban SASO and many other black consciousness organizations. Along with banning the organizations, they jailed many other leaders and members reminiscent of the government's past action with its use of the Terrorist Act of 1967. On September 12, 1977, Stephen Benton Biko died in a prison cell in Pretoria. The announcement of Biko's death sparked international and national protests. Biko was not the only person to die at the hands of the South African security police. Yet because of Biko's prominence as a charismatic leader of the BCM, his death captured the attention of many people throughout the world. He may have died in the physical world, but his legacy and life beliefs are alive and well. What he invigorated in black people will never die. His image will live on forever and will always be present in the minds of South Africans. His legacy is determined by his ideology, and that is truly hard to kill.